Guys, I'm going to sound a little bit like a hater, but stick with me. Stick to the end. And I promise you it will make sense. I'm just tired of celebrities, specifically black celebrities, marketing themselves as our savior, while really they're our exploiter. I hope you stick with me to the end.
Or Def Jam, like we built the brand. You know what I'm saying? Like it can't happen. We are culture. Nothing moves without us. We just continue to give it away. And it's cool. Everyone can participate. Nike still works with joy. Right. It's just the nature of our relationship has to change.
Guys, before we get into anything, please do me one massive favor. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe in order for the channel to grow. It will need your support. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on an episode. They come out every 2 to 3 to maybe 1 week. So hit that notification bell so don't miss out on the episode. Go on, we're gonna get into this episode. So this episode is gonna be like a case study into different celebrities, their hallmarks into entrepreneurship, philanthropy, being philanthropic, charitable, towards different communities, the black community specifically. And does it help? Does it tangibly help? Does it help systematic racism? Does it help alleviate some of the issues of racism from the past that has left our community behind? I'm going to try and be as fair as possible. However, we're going to have to start from somewhere. And I thought, who better than the greatest black celebrity businessman there has ever been?
Like, name me every single business that you were a part of or made.
So I got my own record label, SODMG Records. I got my own clothing line, SODMG brand. I got my own video game company, Soulja Boy Game, TRDR Pocket.
Yeah.
I got my own cologne, S-Boy by Draco.
You have cologne?
I have a cologne. You can smell it right now.
Oh, let's smell it right now.
S-Boy by Draco.
Oh, that's pretty nice, bro.
You know what I'm saying? I got sodas, Soulja Boy sodas.
Gotcha.
Blunts, Signature, Smoke Signature. Shout out to Smoke Signature.
Soulja Boy, tell him.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I'm just playing.
Hello? That's not funny!
I'm playing. It's obviously Jay-Z, Hove, Sean Carter, you know, Beyonce's baby daddy, Beyonce's husband. He's not a businessman, he's a business man.
So I had to start memorizing these things to take them home, you know, and it became an exercise for me. And every day I'm trying to memorize 8 bars, then 16 bars, then I'm memorizing the whole song. Then I start getting away from the house further and further. So I'd start memorizing longer and longer, you know. My journey back home was getting further and further. It took me from New York to Trenton to Maryland to Virginia, DC, you know, it was getting further and further away.
Jay-Z, is he a user? Is he manipulating the black community in order to further his stock financially and in white rooms? It's difficult to tell. On the face of it, Jay-Z seems like the absolute epitome of entrepreneurship, of industry, and business savvy in the black community. Now, it's difficult for me, guys, to really place your knowledge on Jay-Z, and I don't mean that in a patronizing way. I have a really small audience, basically non-existent. So I don't know how to place your information, but you would know that Jay-Z came into prominence, or I'm assuming you would know that he came into prominence through his Rockefeller Records, where he started it with Dame Dash and Biggs.
Video, but we went to St. Thomas, we did a video. So he's like, we did that video ourselves, and we got this buzz, and we got that exposure. Why can't we just do the whole thing ourselves? Why can't we just do a record company? And we was like, yo, let's go. We started out real small, going to the store. I was going to the store myself, and dropping $200, $300 worth of records there, leaving on consignment. Come back my little $300 and put it there again. Like, we literally was driving our cars going around. Dane would hit the Bronx and Harlem. You know what I mean? I was hitting Brooklyn and Queens. And we just took it from there.
You're a pretty successful business person, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's you turned it into...
What was the end of Rockefeller and why it happened? From what I understand, and again, this is just what I've read, there was a dinner that took place between you and Jay where Jay wanted to sell Rockefeller to Def Jam?
No, that's not my bad.
Okay, well, there you go.
We met at dinner because I had heard from L.A. Reid that Jay was like, I'll take the job of president, but Damon and Biggs can't be down with Rockefeller. And L.A. Reid was like, yo, and I thought John McNeely had said this shit. I was like, Jay could have never said that. And we went and he did me like public place, the whole shit, and told me this shit. And I was just like, fucking serious?
Jay told you that?
He said, yeah, I want to be looked at as a businessman, and as long as you're around, I can't be looked at as a businessman. But I was like, what's that got to do with Rockefeller? So he was like, yo, y'all can have Rockefeller, but just give me my reasonable doubt masters back. I said, let me think about it.
Also, you would know that Jay-Z has recently been trending. I guess recently is the wrong word, but has been trending. It is a topic of conversation with different celebrities and different people. Would you take $250K for a dinner with Jay-Z? Or would you just take $250K?
I've been going viral for a minute, and I want to hear your opinion. Would you take $500,000 or dinner with Jay-Z?
Man, give me $500,000. Fuck Jay-Z. Yeah, man.
Because people feel like he's a billionaire. If Jay-Z gives me some of his advice and tells me how he got rich, I could be a billionaire too.
They should sit on his lap and ask him that then. Anybody that think that should run up to him and sit on his lap and put their arm around him like he the white boy Santa Claus.
Why am I saying this? I'm trying to build the picture, the image that Jay-Z was the hallmark of black entrepreneurship. Of course, you saw from the earlier clip that his relationship with Dame and Biggs did fall apart because he felt in some way that they weren't business savvy, they weren't ready for the next level. And a lot, to just summarize the Dame Dash and Jay-Z fallout, I'm really sorry if you don't know a lot about it. This is probably not the episode for you. But put into the comments if you want me to cover that, honestly. But I really think the crux of their issue was Dame's temperament, which is wild.
That's why shit is fucked up, because y'all stay trying to do that. Y'all should have called Damon Dash and said, and you want the whole fucking thing to hear it? Keep the door open, I don't give a fuck.
And Jay-Z wanted to grow. And in order to grow, you have to partner with different entities that typically are white. And Dame Dash is very much independence.
Okay. I don't have to ask no more. You understand? There's pride in that. There's just a pride you should have in ownership.
So as you can see, Jay-Z is very much painted as a shining example in the black community of black industry and black entrepreneurship. Again, he had the net still.
I asked for two things out of my partners in ownership. Is that we named the New Jersey Nets, the Brooklyn Nets, and the second one is that I opened it with the concert.
The net still, where he owns 0.5%. Now this is where I begin to question Jay-Z's genuine temperament. The Dame Dash, Biggs, Rockefeller fallout, I think is a bit too complex to kind of label a black and white or to see the grey areas. Although you can see he's very Machiavellian inherently to entrepreneurship and helping the black community. I don't know if that's bad. But back to the net still, where he owns 0.5%. Many were very critical of that deal, saying that in truth,
politics is a messy business, and local politics might be messier than national politics. So for Jay to have discovered this in the course of pursuing this professional basketball team for Brooklyn, what did he expect?
I am one of the people who was affected by Barclays. We didn't even know that it was going to be related to Jay-Z or called Barclays or anything. We just were told that we would need to move. We knew that eventually if we refused, which we of course did, that they would buy the building right from up under us, which is really ultimately what happened.
At the time, there was serious confrontations. I think they raised the question of eminent domain.
And I can tell you the grumbles and groans of the community that knew that Brooklyn would not be the same and that this would usher in a gentrification.
These buildings were deemed blighted. They weren't big enough to generate enough tax revenue. Some of the other...
It was a deal to enhance his own personal profile and a way for the Russian owner at the time, who was into property, to gentrify the area and build the Barclays Center. So really and truly, our greatest fear about black celebrities and black entrepreneurs is that they are really used as props, marketing tools for greater, bigger white corporations. Again, we have to highlight this, and ownership is ownership. Don't feel ashamed. It was only 0.15%. And at the time, it was hidden, it was called a minority, and very much overstated. Many times people spoke about Jay-Z's ownership into the Nets as if it was something significant, when in truth, it was nothing.
Now, with the Brooklyn Nets, he invested and got a 0.067% stake. That's 1/15 of 1%. So yes, it is a stake, but it's not that big. ESPN estimates that it could be worth about $350,000 in the open market right now. And it's fairly liquid. I mean, you're talking about a smaller stake for a hundreds of $1 million worth franchise. But what's important is that with Jay-Z, he bought a lot of cachet to the New York, or to the Brooklyn Nets, right? Because anytime you saw him perhaps on the court side,
Oh yeah, him and Beyonce.
yes, exactly. Him and Beyonce, that brings a certain amount of buzz to it. That's the reason why it's important. So yeah, maybe not so much a factor for the Nets anymore.
However, I'm sure Jay-Z himself received some free tickets courtside, because he was always courtside. Big up Jay-Z, but ironically, that his time at the Nets was with the owner, making the area more gentrified. And many of my friends have spoken about New York, Brooklyn, being an area which was once a bustling area for black people, an area that was situated not just in black but Caribbean and African culture, has sort of lost it to gentrification. Not trying to put that all onto Jay-Z or Propovkov's, the former Russian owner of the Nets. I'm not trying to put that all onto them, but you can see his helping hand. However, he was a big part of the NFL's deal. He worked in conjunction with the NFL, with Rock Nation, in order to build bridges after the Colin Kaepernick incident.
This is a success, right? This is the next thing, right? Because there's two parts of protesting.
Action to sit was later lifted to taking a knee.
You go outside and you protest, and then the company or the individual say, I hear you. What do we do next?
We have cops that are murdering people. We have cops in the SFPD that are blatantly racist. And those issues need to be addressed.
For me, it was like actionable item. What are we gonna do with it?
Believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything.
What are we gonna do? You know what I'm saying? So, reach millions and millions of people, or we get stuck on Colin not having a job.
Now, JC says a lot of things here that's kind of troubling. And if, as someone who's quite critical of society, what can I say? You can pick holes at the things he says, but tangibly, what has they offered? There's a £100 million deal that the NFL has offered to pump back into communities. But if I'm being cynical, it's very vague, difficult to understand where that's gone. But that's me being cynical, and admittedly, I could stand wrong and corrected if I hear information to the contrary. But really, the greatest legacy between Rock Nation, sport, and the NFL is Usher, Kendrick, Eminem, Snoop Dogg.
I didn't love it, you know. I mean, I was critical of it, obviously. I have a lot of respect for Jay-Z. I know what he's done for culture. This is, and you know, I feel like I always have to qualify because I know how dearly our culture holds him, as they should, and respect and reverence to him, and obviously Beyonce too. And I know what he was probably thinking. Mm-hmm. But you're dealing with a different group of people here in the sense of like, they needed the access to the culture. That Super Bowl halftime show was on life support. Nobody was with that show at all. And as soon as he aligned, he gave them access to something they didn't deserve.
After Colin Kaepernick took a knee for racial injustice in America, the mass shooting of unarmed black men, the legacy from his knee where he was blackballed by his contemporaries in his company at the time, which was the NFL. He was employed by the NFL and he was blackballed because he was good enough to play in the NFL.
Look, on the surface, you can have a very cynical view of this, which is that the NFL is trying to co-opt social justice issues and Jay-Z sold out to them. And now that they've brought him into the tent, they have kind of protection against certain kind of criticism or protest that could affect their bottom line. And I actually don't have an issue with a cynical view of it. I get that. So Jay-Z goes from the guy who said, you know, turns down the halftime show, this is widely reported today even, saying, you need me, I don't need you, to a guy who's now quoted as saying, once he struck the deal, as saying, hey, I can't control the world that we live in. But I actually agree with Jay-Z now. He can't control it. He can just try to contribute to moving it in the right direction and also make a buck as he does it. What's more American than that?
The prevailing legacy is that we have more black acts representation in the NFL. Now you can see why there's so much cynicism around black celebrities, their ventures into entrepreneurship, their business ventures in general. Because so many times we have been slapped in the face by a wet fish by what they have offered. Usher's performance was great. I personally loved The Weeknd's performance. I'm a fan of Kendrick, a massive fan of Kendrick. But that shall not be the legacy of Colin Kaepernick's knee, which led to him being blackballed. And the knee was for racial injustice and the shooting of unarmed police officers, unarmed black men in America. That is scary. And the fact that he said, we've moved past the knee.
Did you kneel in what you stand?
What?
Did you kneel in what you stand?
Okay. I think we passed kneeling.
It screams house Negro. Call it what it is. Many people use terms as black bourgeoisie as a way to describe black people who attain a certain level of wealth which enters them into middle and upper America, where they start to...
Yeah, I'll take that check,
right.
But at the same time, it comes with a price.
Right.
And that price is you are a puppet. Because you say one thing wrong, you're gonna be reminded that you're still a
Creating elitism. You may hear the popular 10th. Oh, I think it's top 10th actually. I don't really remember. But you will hear these terms. But really, the term really is rich doing shit in their own interests. Things that benefit themselves while playing as if it benefits the community. Because we can see Rock Nation has been paid, Jay-Z's company. More black acts, artists have been receiving representation on the blacks on halftime shows. But systematic, even sort of anything tangible for the community hasn't been translated. And so often, I think, in my opinion, Jay-Z speaks with contempt when he says things that we've moved past the knee. It's as if black issues disgust him, and it does scream house Negro. And that's why I label him the user, often manipulating the black community into believing that this cause is for their empowerment and bettering themselves, when in reality it isn't. I mean, Jay-Z, in the height of post George Floyd, he did a course for financial literacy.
Hence why, instead of buying the Marcy projects with his billions setting up social services, healthcare, or grocer, whatever, Jay instead created a financial literacy class to teach people in the projects about Bitcoin. In 2022, this is in the middle of cryptocurrency collapsing and his biggest stars going to jail. That is what Jay-Z gave back to the hood. Most of these uber rich black folks, from Puffy to Kanye to Rihanna to Jay-Z, got their money by partnering with massive white corporations, and they were only able to do this by leveraging their connection to black culture. They only got rich off their connections to us.
Which was, Bitcoin. Bitcoin in 2022, in the middle of the Bitcoin's biggest falls. And some people may argue back and say, hey, when it rises up, that information is helpful. I understand, but you have to be so cynical because, again, Bitcoin itself, not cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin itself is for the 1%. So teaching that information, again, I wonder who that's really profiting. I wonder who that really supports. It looks good until you squint just a little bit and realize that it doesn't profit or help anyone in the black community too tangibly. Again, let's not be totally critical. In some shape or form, I do believe things Jay-Z does, the inspiration, the admiration that he has received, can be helpful to not only black men, but the black community self-esteem about entrepreneurship. I see this in many UK rappers who talk about entering in entrepreneurship, diversifying their income.
Good friend Jay-Z's brand. You might Jay-Z, only the greatest of all time. This is Say Jay-Z. They some people actually call me Jigga Jr. But
and many people use Jay-Z as their hallmark and quote his lyrics as a way to say, hey, I'm a businessman. It's a shame that the real person behind the businessman, in my opinion, appears to be a bit fake. And again, I don't mean to say this as like he's an Illuminati, Freemason, I'm not that person trying to do that. I'm just saying, when you look into his business ventures, especially the ones that he says are here to profit black people, they rarely do. Even his Rock Nation Sports, where he says it's supposed to be more catered for the athlete, a critical eye and a cynical eye would say, we're yet to see that. It's still early, we'll give it time. But surely Jay-Z's not the worst, right? Right?
LeBron's Family Foundation, Our Promise Initiative, forced a positive change. He's a great husband. He's a great dad. He's a great basketball ambassador.
This is when LeBron James, to me, is at his greatest. This is when I applaud him and laud him like never before. He has turned into the greatest superstar watchdog that we've ever had. It's like he has a second job, just eyes open watching.
Yes.
And when he sees racial injustice, he pounces.
Just want people to know, this is for the adults, that it doesn't matter, as a kid growing up in the inner city, and me specifically growing up here in Akron, Ohio, being underprivileged and feeling that you can become a statistic. By me being able to put something like this together, I want people to know that these kids should still have the same opportunity as everyone else.
And the reason I think it's important to name how great a person LeBron James has been as an ambassador, as an inspiration for the black community and basketball as a whole is, first of all, he's been playing since he was 18. The man is 14, still playing well, still in great shape, hardly ever in trouble, has a somewhat great image publicly in terms of his relationships. I know there's that thing with Drake.
I've talked to enough in Canada. I've talked to enough people. Maybe Drake will keep teasing it. Let me just tell you what I've heard. Yo, LeBron, you and Drake used to go on two-mans, okay? You've been cheating on your goddamn wife. Drake used to facilitate the whole.
Well, I
don't think he did it. But you know what? Even if he did do it, you know what I mean?
I've heard worse. I want to discuss how unscathed he's been. But he has constantly, basketball-wise, faced comparisons with Michael Jordan. And at this point, I really think it's unfair to compare them. You do a disservice to both their legacies.
You're hurting yourself. Who said LeBron wasn't great? Who is that person?
Nobody.
Who is that person?
No
right
one.
There. It's never been said.
Put EST on it, Stephen A. We're asking you to put EST on it because when your guy was, Stephen A. When your guy was 20, he was living in a dorm driving a moped. My guy was hitting jumpers against Sacramento and Boston.
LeBron is clearly the greater player in terms of longevity and helping poorer teams. Michael Jordan may have the greatest high ever, if that makes sense, the greatest ceiling. I hope I'm making sense there. But it's really a debate that has no answer. It's the Messi, Ronaldo thing, comes down to personal preference. But similar to Messi and Ronaldo, the comparisons have been so deep, so introspective into their characters that people use things outside of basketball. And one thing Michael Jordan really failed in, outside of business, which he did great, basketball he did great, was how philanthropic he was. Philanthropic? I still can't say that word properly. Dang. But philanthropic. How do you say the word? I'm just saying charitable. How charitable he's been. How much he was able to, even tangibly, even symbolically help the black community. Where there was a black mayor running in his hometown, he made the famous line.
Let's call a spade a spade. At that particular moment in time, to a lot of African Americans, Jesse Helms was considered a bigot in our eyes. That's just the reality of how African Americans felt. And then you have people like Jordan and many, many others who felt, why should you need a celebrity or a star to tell you that it's in your best interest to turn out to vote against somebody like a Jesse Helms?
And Jordan said Republicans buy sneakers too.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and see that whole, and see,
it's so funny to me how when that was all going on, man, we hooping. That was a little side note. MJ said that, whatever. All right? Let me show you how heavy this is. If he wouldn't have said nothing, just took a picture with Harvey Gann, because your mother asked you to support him first. So that would have been, all right, Mom, let's take this picture real quick. What's up, brother? Harvey, vote for him. All you would have been done with it. No. You want to bring into the Republicans buy gym shoes. Brother, I asked this question. If you wouldn't have said jack about Republicans buying gym shoes, now did Republicans stop buying gym shoes? Did Democrats stop buying gym shoes because, you feel me? Ain't nobody stopped buying You are who you are. You know it. He knows it. Everybody in the world knows it. You ain't gonna stop buying your shoe because you got a political belief. You ain't never had no political belief about nothing. So why now? And it's gonna be just like it was. And with that circus, that is Michael Jordan's, like everybody else that's a superstar, it's a fucking circus. So in that circus, it's a daily news cycle, man. You know how it is, man. That's just, yeah, we want to highlight, okay, somebody has new breaking news. It's gone. So it's how much you want to make of it. And you can make the most of it, and then to make the most of it and not really speak to the issue, not really speak to the underlying issue. The underlying issue is that Helms was an avowed racist, brother.
Republicans wear sneakers too, which was symbolic of Michael Jordan. Whether it was true or not, he has dispelled it. He has said it was a joke, offhand comment. And he likes to stay away from politics, which I understand. As a black person, it's difficult to. But essentially, the image I'm trying to build is that Michael Jordan's image was very much someone who was not for the black community. And for a while, LeBron was very silent on issues until
willingness to speak out, and LeBron James is definitely at the forefront. But there were many occasions in the early part of LeBron James' career where he was making more than $4 million a year annually, where he was highly reluctant to speak out because he said he didn't know enough. As he grew up, as he definitely, researched, did his information, did his homework, gathered his information and felt more confident, that emboldened him. And more importantly, most of these dudes, when they speak up in today's era, it's usually after they got 9 figures. Let's remember that. Let's not ignore that.
Sorry, post-edit clip here on the LeBron situation. The point I want to be very clear about with LeBron is that what I think makes him uniquely different to Jay-Z is that I think, like I said with the comparison with Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan being inherently seen, being indifferent to the matters that happen in the black community, I do think there is a cynical way of looking that charitable nature, his speaking out against racial injustice, a way to just enhance his image in his comparison with Michael Jordan, because he's probably more than aware that it's beyond basketball, it's image, it's likability, it's relatability to an audience that enhances you in this debate. I mean, I think Messi is better than Ronaldo, and indulge me here, but people literally use the idea that Messi being more humble makes him a better player than Ronaldo. I think he is, but the humbleness is an opinion about the person. And I think there is a cynical way of looking at LeBron's readiness to discuss matters that happen in the black community as a way to criticize, as a way to garner more favor from an audience. And where does that come from? Is it just because there's no tangible, systematic help that has come from any of his ventures? Or is it things that happen with the China incident?
Been a social justice warrior when the cost was low, but now the cost is high. I would also want to hear from him. Now, I understand LeBron James has $1 billion of business in China or something like that. And I would probably be very careful with what I said for a lot less money than that. But there is a name for not standing up on principles that you've always stood up for in the past when money's on the line. It's called selling out. That's what this has to be called, because that's what it is. But LeBron, by the same token, is a threat to justice anywhere, which includes China. It's injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. If you tweeted that out, so was that just a low-cost virtue signaling for you too? Or do you really believe that? Because I thought he really believed it.
The incident in China, I really think highlights that LeBron is strategic in where his activism is. Is that wrong? Does he know enough? But he was very much on the side of the rich corporation, or in this example, the rich state country. He's been silent in other issues. He was silent for a long time. Couple that with the lack of systematic help, it does make you question. It does make you question. And potentially, cynically, this is a way to not only enhance his public image, but enhance himself in the debate against Jordan. He's very proud of being a black billionaire. Kanye spoke about there's not enough black billionaires. And similar, LeBron has made it no shame that he wants to be a billionaire. But we hear that and think, because it's inspiring, which is good, that's going to help the black community, and it's shown it hasn't. There's more black billionaires now than when when Kanye was speaking about it at the Breakfast Club.
We don't got it like that. When I tell you only 7 black billionaires, look at that marginalization, and we feel like we happy because me and Rick Ross got a Maybach, or I got a Sprint outside, or a couple of us, or they put a black president. Man, let me tell you something about George Bush and oil money and Obama and no money. People want to say Obama can't make these moves or he's not executing. That's because he ain't got those connections. Black people don't have the same level of connections as Jewish people.
It hasn't helped. We haven't grown systematically. There hasn't been mass improvement. Perhaps the improvement is too slow to see. Perhaps I'm too cynical. Prisoner of the moment. But historically, I haven't seen it help. Perhaps it's kicking down doors. I don't know. Back to the regular edit.
In the wake of George Floyd's killing, NBA superstar LeBron James is taking action. He realized it was time to get out and do a little bit more. So he formed a new voting rights group called More Than a Vote to help get African Americans to the polls, alongside a group of celebrity athletes and entertainers.
Am I a hater for calling that out? That he thought George Floyd being shot and the best thing to do was to vote for Joe Biden?
Are you serious right now, bro?
Not Obama. Not Obama. Not even Hillary Clinton, which would have been mad anyway, but Joe Biden.
Now, who am I introducing next? Who's next?
Because he's not Trump. I'm not telling people that Trump's better. I'm really not. But again, you start to understand that this is where some of these black celebrities have been potentially bought. Have they been co-opted? Are they being controlled? These questions have to be asked. The reason why I say they have to be asked is, why does voting for the Democrat Party help the black community when we've seen years of it not helping? It's not me being trying to scrutinize LeBron too much. I mean, there's nothing tangible in that. People will talk about his school, I Promise, which was supposed to help kids that are struggling not only with SEND needs, special educational needs, but other health needs that in the Akron community. But it paired up with a public school. Many can be extremely critical, but that in itself, the public schools are a part of the problem when it comes to kids with special educational needs. Again, I understand the need to partner with larger corporations to fully understand and have the infrastructure to support your idea. No one's mad at that. Krept and Conan themselves spoke about it.
You know, it is as well, like we've learned from, other ventures and doing other things that when you try to do something by yourself sometimes it's the hardest thing. It's so difficult. You know what I'm saying? It's trial and error, and when you want to like spread your wings and dive into different ventures, bro, the way forward's partnerships, bro. Like that's how you're gonna 100%. Spread. That's how you're gonna
collabs. People don't know what it takes to run a business. You wouldn't have time to do 100% of it.
You wouldn't be able to be here. You wouldn't be able to do this.
When you're in a certain position, you want to partner with people that can take some of that. They're gonna do. You've got
partner with experts in their field, and they partner with you for being experts.
And if you can get that good business rapport with them, then you're blessed.
However, when you plague something as if it's by black people for black people, and that is what black ownership means, unless you're trying to say it's different, you can understand why there's tremendous pushback, and we should be not only cynical but damn right suspicious when black celebrities and black people in general are speaking about empowering the community through black capitalism, when we have seen historically, and these articles will show, it doesn't bring anything systematic and tangible to the community.
Been used to convince poor black people that we're poor because of our own failures, our own inability to take advantage of the wonders that we have in terms of opportunity here in the United States. It's a narrative that's meant to blame poor people for being poor. And to say, black people, you have all this buying power, and if you would just have financial literacy and stop buying rims and hair and weed, you would be rich and you could invest and buy land and buy stock and this and that. And then when you look at the numbers, there's no land to buy, there's no stock to buy, there's no wealth creating assets to invest in. The only power we have is an organizational political power, revolutionary social movement power. And you don't need money for that. That's another part of the mythology. You just need commitment and a willingness to take risks and to support one another.
I think in the case of LeBron, he was being used and co-opted by the Democratic Party, which happens often with black celebrities. They're used and co-opted by the Democratic Party to enhance the Democratic Party, garnering the black vote, one with no tangible help. With Jay-Z, I think he knew what he was doing. I really do. LeBron, I'm a bit more sensitive to the fact that he may have just been extremely naive and unaware of how it can help. This is the problem with the top-down, bottom approach, like the contempt that I spoke about with Jay-Z. Sometimes people at the top, especially black figures at the top, can look down upon those beneath them as if they're lazy and beneath them and always needing a dragging up, and that the advice of white people is better than the screams from the black community. And something that's important to mention as well, that many of these black celebrities, we have to understand this, are paid for their marketing and branding because of their direct connection, marketability, and the ability to get finances out of the black community. So when you hear these things that are like rally cries, terminologies that galvanize a feeling of us against the world, it does feel like prosperity gospel, which is the gospel of, by many pastors do, especially got into prominence in Southern America and Nigeria, about, if you just believe in God and help me more, enhance myself financially, God will enhance you financially more. It does feel as if that comparison with prosperity gospel, many celebrities use that in their entrepreneurship that is supposed to be for black people, when systematically it does not match.
From tithe and offering, do I get paid from tithe and offering? Do our pastors create business for our community? No. We don't. Churches don't do that. We've done that with proofs. So when a pastor decides to buy a house, what Pastor Toby did was not to get a house, put the money back to people. Should I not have anything in life?
And then when we start getting it, they try to lock us out of it. They start inventing words like, capitalist and, things like that. I mean, we've been called monkeys. I don't care. Those words y'all come up with, y'all got to come up with stronger words. Eat the rich and man, we're not stopping.
I don't want to be all doom and gloom. It may come across again, like I said, like I'm extremely negative and hateful towards some of these celebrities. Rihanna, for example, is an example where her entrepreneurship was very tangibly helpful in terms of the product that she was offering through her Fenty Savage and Fenty Beauty.
You deserve to feel beautiful. And I want women of all shades to feel included, and all races and all cultures to be a part of this. And that's really what was important for me within choosing the shades and how many we were going to make, especially with the foundation. And it's a fun situation, and I want all women to have a piece and take part in this.
Fenty Beauty's Eavesdrop is actually a skin tint, so it has more of like a natural, almost mattifying finish that's super blurring.
The 3 shades that I've been sent are 440, 445, and 450. The good news is 445 is my exact match to a T.
That is my shade. Girl, do y'all see that? Girl. Do you see it? Because you can't, because it's gone. They never let me down, girl. I don't have no complaints. My face matched my neck. My neck matched my face.
However, there was one problem, and this is another issue with white corporations kind of tentacles into the business of the black community, is that it quickly tries to exploit.
Savage Fenty and Fenty Beauty were successful because they were inclusive. Savage with their wide size range and Beauty with their wide skin color range. Accessibility had become the ethos of the larger Fenty brand, but the way that they launched Fenty the fashion house was just not accessible at all, which was confusing to the brand image. Primary audience was women in their early to mid-20s. So when the collection was made available with the prices in the hundreds for basics and thousands for jackets, there was a lot of backlash from their target market who simply couldn't justify paying those prices for the product available. Previously, in her design work with high street or diffusion lines, the price was reflective of the worth of her Fenty name, whereas accessories like shoes, sunglasses, and even jewelry for luxury houses were also in the accessible range because these products have longevity that may justify a higher price point for some. But in this luxury clothing space, people simply wanted more value for their money than Fenty was able to provide, given that they aren't a heritage brand with decades of marketing bringing up the brand value. That explains why these sunglasses and shoes of Fenty were able to sell out and even having waitlists at one point, while the clothing actually never did. This price positioning alienated the original Fenty customer and effectively told them that they were no longer good enough for the brand that the public had helped build with Fenty Beauty, which had a mid-price point.
And there's a reason why no one talks about Rihanna's fashion house, Fenty Fashion House, because it failed, because it did the exact thing that it was marketing against, and that was inclusion. Although she never said it was directly for black people, she said it was for everyone. Black and ethnic minority women felt as if she was speaking for them, with the tights that matched, the makeup that had all the different shades. There was nothing quite like it. Then to have a fashion house that was exclusatory in the price, accessibility, and its designs felt as if it went against the very core of her branding.
I think the failure was down to her at all. She was placed in a business that was doomed to fail because they weren't able to do a brand analysis before launch or before designing to understand who their customer was and to understand who Fenty was too. Going against the public image of your brand is almost always bound to end in failure. So it's baffling to me that a giant like LVMH would allow this to happen or not see this coming.
Again, there's probably more reasons. The designs were inconsistent. It didn't seem to have an identity. But the tentacles of white corporations, and you find this throughout business, when they invest good black products, they quickly take it away, showing that we're a stepping stone to leverage themselves to make them cooler to a larger audience. And often those businesses, especially when they're black run, often fail because it is at the will of its inclusion. Its branding is inclusion, and sadly when it takes itself away, it dilutes the product itself. I do not believe Rihanna is a black capitalist in the bad sense of the word, but I do think that's an example of, black capitalism failure. That is an example of black entrepreneurship when the tentacles of white corporations, white run companies get involved, diluting and destroying something that was quite beautiful. The fact that it was LVMH says it all. And you can see this again with different people. You have in the UK Stormzy, which just to run through this. Stormzy, rapper, biggest rapper in the UK. In the UK, biggest rapper from the UK is Central C. Got to be clear. Got involved with a branding deal with McDonald's. Why was that so bad? He's marketed himself as someone who is pro the people, anti-establishment, anyone who's for any injustice. He stands for. McDonald's is in support of Palestine. He himself has commented that he supports Palestine, he's behind Palestine.
So why is there so much outrage with Stormzy collaborating with McDonald's? Well, if we go onto the Twitter, I'm not sure if he was trending for this, but people are not happy. This is the tweet that I saw yesterday, which has gone viral. And this tweet shows Stormzy's now deleted post in support of Palestine. And he said, in the future, if there is ever a clear injustice in the world, no matter how big or small, 100 times out of 100, I will be on the side of the oppressed. Unequivocally. The guy said, unequivocally. Nobody forced you to say that, my bro, as I always have been. Social media is a brilliant way to stand up for what is right. There are also a whole load of other ways to do this, including boycotting. So the fact that Stormzy posed as if he was in full support of the Free Palestine movement and then deleted it for what was obviously, he's working with McDonald's, a very, very lucrative deal. I mean, in the McDonald's shop, the whole thing showed Stormzy. Imagine every McDonald's in the country has that, which it does. Stormzy, you've shown people that you have a price. Now, whenever you stand for something, people are not going to take it seriously. People are not going to take you seriously anymore. And Stormzy, I reckon if you didn't take the pro-Palestine post down, you would still be receiving some criticism and backlash, but it wouldn't be on this scale.
But McDonald's itself, as you can see, has been a company that has inherently supported what's going on in Palestine. The Israelis aligned itself very heavily to the sort of Zionist movement that's going on in Israel by supporting the soldiers. Now, politics, geopolitics is very complicated. Is Storms, the rapper who used to live down the road from where my mum lived, supposed to be the savior? No. Stormzy's not your savior. Kendrick's not your savior. Jay-Z's not your savior. Rihanna's not your savior. However, his branding was very much of man of the people, and it seemed to go against what he aligned himself for. And I think that was the crux of the issue. His apology, Storms, I love you. I really do. I really do. It burns me to say this, but that apology was not hitting. It was not hitting. It felt very corporate. It didn't feel real. And your branding, at least, is very real. I don't want to be too critical of the guy. Wish him all the best. Got mutual friends. All the best to you. But, you know, can't lie. It felt fake, man. It felt fake. The reason I use this as an example, and another thing I'm going to say on that is, I don't even believe he eats McDonald's. I just don't believe it. Have you seen the shape this guy's in?
Hey, wife or die?
I'm gonna finish now.
Hey.
If he does eat it, it's once every 6 months. There's no way he eats it regularly. I'm sorry. Just so anti his brand, it's mad. But many people cynically will say it's a way of McDonald's to further appeal to themselves, to the black community and ethnic minorities in general, post the kind of faux pas of supporting Israel and there being a ceasefire on the way. I believe it should have been done by now in terms of recording. But the reason I mention this, the reason I discuss this, is that you can see often when celebrities, black celebrities in general, enter a certain status, they often become co-opted, used, and turn away from their branding. Rihanna and Stormzy are examples of that they turn away from the very core. That doesn't mean I'm looking at them as these evil beings who are just, you know, black people doing this and we're gonna do this. But you have to now look at black entrepreneurship, black businesses, especially from celebrity, with an extremely cynical eye. Is it systematically helpful, or is it just something that symbolically represents us going down the right doors? More questions to be asked than answered from this episode. Again, is it that they're kicking down doors and the infrastructure is so powerful that it doesn't allow themselves to fully ingratiate in the way that they want to, but them opening those doors furthers us down the line? Is it something like that? I hope that made sense. Another example of that, and I think a key example of that, is Killer Mike and his Greenwood Bank.
I don't want just black people banking black. If you make money with us, if you make money off us, if you are in our community, I want you banking too.
Co-founding the digital bank Greenwood with former Atlanta Mayor Andrew Young and Atlanta-based entrepreneur Ryan Glover, who serves as the bank's chairman. Glover says the mission is to create more Black and Latinx wealth.
My grandparents, one of the first things they did besides buy me Delta and Coca-Cola stock, because we were right here in Atlanta, was take me to a black bank, get me my first savings account, later checking account. And I think that we should be doing that in the digital age. We have the ability to put a bank in our hand. And with Greenwood, your bank is there, and you don't have to wait for your 8-year-old to turn 12 and take home economics. You can be doing that as early as 7, 8 years old.
It's important to say that Killer Mike's bank, called Greenwood by the way, which is an important reason, there's an important reason I mentioned that. Truth be told, really and truly, isn't even a bank, it's fintech. Secondly, and more importantly, it is in line with other bigger white banks. So it's not entirely black owned. It has helped black communities with financial literacy, it's helped black businesses with loans. It has been helpful in some small ways. However, the big mass change Killer Mike was speaking of feels more like marketing. Sadly, perhaps the institution he's entered, like I said earlier, is so big that he's kicking down doors for those who will precede him to go further and beyond, perhaps. However, when you see he's partnered with bigger white banks, when you find out that it's not even a bank, it's a fintech, you can look at it cynically as just a way to further expand his business. The fact that it's called Greenwood, which is after the Tulsa Massacre, Black Wall Street, is extremely ironic because there's a part of the Black Wall Street dialogue that people forget to mention. I'm going to say this quickly before I play this clip, that Black Wall Street was a bustling community where black bourgeoisie, rich niggas, were doing well, having entrepreneurial businesses, sort of not devoid of the white community, but in its own pocket, in its own lane, terrorized by jealousy, greed. It was destroyed, burnt down.
people don't know about this story is that within years of the riots, they rebuilt Tulsa, Oklahoma. Within years, they rebuilt Greenwood to be better than it ever was. By the 1940s, it was a more wealthy town, still all black.
So they destroy Black Wall Street. The poor whites, the white community in general supports this. They destroy the black community. But what is left out of the history is that the black people in that black community in Tulsa rebuilt Black Wall Street. And we became an even bigger economic business community by the 1940s, okay? For the black elite, not the black workers, but they had rebuilt for the black elite. Was even doing better. But it wasn't until the mid-40s where the post-World War II expansion of U.S. hegemony here and abroad was taking place that the federal government came in, and they are the ones through public policy, not vigilante violence, destroyed Tulsa.
These black elites had the money. They bought the block, literally, but they still couldn't use that economic viability and political power to make the government build a highway a few blocks in the other direction.
As you can see, many people don't mention that it was rebuilt. But despite being rebuilt, it's now just a road. That legacy is important to say that systematic racism, the power, the white power structure is so powerful that this idea of microeconomies, which I used to support, man, I'm not gonna lie, you can do your research on that with me. You can check those episodes, I've supported it, is a lie. It's not enough. True activism isn't black entrepreneurship. I know Dr. Umar, Minister Farrakhan speak about that, but it's not that. And the irony that a bank by Killer Mike is called Greenwood when it's actually secretly owned by a white community, by white banks I should say, powerful, large white banks that it's supposed to be opposed to, says it is damning with fake praise. And I really do believe some people, Jay-Z being one, it's just my opinion, allegedly, that speak about black entrepreneurship, that the problems with black communities that there's not enough money, really devoids away from what the true problems of systematic racism are. Capitalism, racism, systematic racism, I believe are Siamese twins, intrinsically linked, tentacles glued together. And truly for me, to move away from it means to move away from the system itself. To separate the two, I don't believe is quite possible. And I hope you can see through these examples, these different examples of how problematic it can be. Again, it's important to mention and to say this, that I don't want this to be too negative. I don't want people to think, whoever watches it, hell to the system, I'm not getting involved in nothing. Please do what you believe is necessary. Work hard, believe, but true entrepreneurship, true activism involves you being active, helping your community. There are unarmed black men dying in America quite regularly, marches that you can be involved in. I'm not trying to preach and tell you what to do. I don't want you to be fooled into thinking something else is actually helping the cause, because it's yet to show that. Post edit clip here, guys. Sorry. My battery died in the middle of the conclusion. So, to conclude, it is important to recognize that these celebrities that I've mentioned are symptoms of a problem. It is a culture of hero worship, celebrity worship, favoritism, lack of understanding of the wider picture of marketing. The problem of the digital space is now, if something sounds good, it trends and people believe it's true. But I don't want to just attack celebrity. This favoritism, it's embedded in our community. In the UK, we recently had like a little trend going on about UK hairdressers and their favoritism.
What is going on with the customer service when it comes to UK hairstylists? A lot of the girlies have come fresh out of uni. They've learned how to do hair. They've not even shadowed anyone. They've learned it off YouTube. Then after watching the tutorials, they will open the Instagram page, slayed by Sisi, braids by Bukola, start doing the alliteration and that. And then they just start the business. And I think what's happening is that we are missing the key steps of learning how to do customer service.
Your way, you have a right to complain. You have a right to speak up. You can do it in everybody else's establishment. But what, you can't do it in a black woman's chair? Absolutely the f*** not. At the end of the day, this is experience. And some gal need to go to business school to learn how to actually run a business.
UK hairstylists need to be checked. I don't know who you lot think you lot are, right? And yes, we're going to talk about it. You lot do treat influencers way better than your clients that's actually paying you. So what blew my mind was when Milan said, "Are you anemic? Are you fucking stupid?" This girl is paying £150 to get her hair done in a leave out, yeah? And a woman said she's cold. First and foremost, you're not in a business shop. You're not even in a shop or on a commercial rental property or anything. You are doing hair in your household. You understand? If your client who is paying you £150 asks you to turn on the heater in your house because she's very cold.
And it's not just the UK, it's in Atlanta as well. Keith Lee exposed this about a year ago.
So when we pulled up, I sent my family in to order for us. They said on the weekends, due to being busy, they don't do any takeout at all.
They do to-go orders? No, we don't do to-go on the weekend. Oh, okay, so sit-in dining. Yes. Okay, thank you, sweetie. We appreciate you.
Which is completely understandable. So what we decided to do is my family's gonna go eat. They're just gonna come bring the food out while I'm sitting in the car, so they have no idea I'm here. My family asked how long the wait was to be seated. They said an hour to an hour and a half.
Yeah, hour and a half. Okay.
She also said they didn't have any reservations available. So they didn't take down any number, any contact information, nothing.
Now, considering that you couldn't call ahead to order, they didn't take reservations, there was an hour and a half wait, and they never took any of their information. I mean, what kind of review would you expect? And on top of that, things switched up real fast when Keith himself got involved.
My family then came and relayed that message to me, and I decided to go in myself. We walked in, we were greeted by a nice young lady. And then I met some amazing people who were eating there, and we took some pictures. God is amazing. As soon as me and my wife were done taking pictures, the lady said the table was ready. As always, I don't want any special treatment. I want to be treated like everybody else. I pay for my food like everybody else. I'm a normal person. I'm a normal customer. Things like this is exactly why I do reviews the way I do. Just because I have a certain amount of followers on social media don't make me different from nobody.
Considering all those circumstances, I personally think Keith was pretty gracious in orders. DoorDash was a no-go, closed early for deep cleaning. Basically, it was a busted trip. You'd think the owners of the Real Milk and Honey would have been a little bit embarrassed, or at the very least contrite. Well, you would be guessing wrong.
Did you see this Keith Lee video about the Real Milk and Honey?
And who is this Keith Lee?
Daddy, you don't know Keith Lee? Yeah.
No.
And if you thought that was bad, one of the employees at the Real Milk and Honey went on TikTok and said, quote, "Y'all let an autistic man tell you where to eat." Keith Lee is a good Christian because, boy, I would have spent the next 6 months frying that place.
The reason I use these as examples, the reason I mention them as examples as well, is that this favoritism, that's hero worship, it's embedded in our community, it's embedded in society in the larger sense as well. I don't want to just have an attack on the black community, but it is a problem. It's exacerbated. And I've seen it where there was one time, I think I was at a Capital One extra watch along. Was it a watch along? They were hosting the first game of the Euros, and you could see quite quickly the favoritism they have for quote unquote celebs. Some, I hear it, some didn't know who you were. I'm not even hating it, I'm being just dead serious. But the reason I bring that up, the reason that point's important, is that I want you to get the picture that the favoritism that happens creates a cultishness, creates a celebrity worship, a hero worship, where they think they're better than thou. They then market themselves like, we're trying to help you, when in truth their product or what they're doing isn't directly helping you. Or in the case of Rihanna, very quickly they are manipulated by white powers to move away from their core audience. And some people may say to me, what's your problem with expanding? My problem is not expanding, but from a marketing point of view,
doesn't even make sense.
Moving away from your core audience actually puts you in a fragile position. And as you can see, that brand went down the toilet. But she's still quite successful with Savage and Beauty. I think it's important to mention this too, that I support a lot of celebrities doing well. I support getting to the bag. I'm a big believer of entrepreneurship, helping yourself, growing. I'm not someone who's against that, not at all. But I also recognize that it is more of an individual conquest, and it's, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, that it's greatness is in its symbolism, its tangible effects on the community. It's not there. We had the outcry about Krypton Conan, in the UK. I don't want to beat down a dead horse, but you can see it also with Jay-Z, with what he's saying about the NFL. It's really cool to see better acts, and it's maybe for someone who's trying to enter into the industry, become a musician, it's inspiring, but that is not directly affecting systematic racism. No, it is not. And I think trying to play it like it is manipulation, and we should be a bit more critical in our thought when we hear someone say that their new business venture is going to help or save or improve the black community. We should not only be critical but suspicious at this point. But these examples have shown that it's really not. I remember Kanye West said that once he becomes a billionaire, he'll be able to put on free concerts in Chicago and help Chicago.
But it's not all good, you know? Like I said, I'm from Chicago. People is dying every day, and everybody think we're gonna do a benefit concert and help that out. But I need to be put in a position to be able to apply my thoughts, the same thoughts. You know, before I came in the game, rappers is killing each other. You ain't even heard about that no more. The first time rappers rapped on a song with each other that were at a God level, all of them was Swagger Like Us. After that, all the songs was like Swagger Like Us. The thing is, we not each other's enemies. I'm showing us how we can work together.
Since then, has he done that? He's crashed out a few times. He hasn't helped.
Slavery for 400 years? For 400 years? That sounds like a choice. Like, you was there for 400 years and it's all of y'all?
We have to deal with the marginalization that has come from the 400 years of slavery that you said for our people was a choice. And brother, I am unbelievably hurt by the fact that you have morphed into something, to me, that's not real.
And some people are gonna ask, what is the point? You've just criticized them. What do you think you could do better? I believe in supporting black businesses, as I have said. But I think true activism involves being active.
Situation around it. Miss Sally lost her job. Let's rally. She'll get her job back. People will come and rally. So-and-so got kicked out of school because the teacher's unjust. The people will come and rally. They will come to rally at issues. And this is what mobilization does. It mobilizes people around issues. Those of us who are revolutionary are not concerned with issues. We're concerned with the system. The difference must be properly understood. The difference must be properly understood. Mobilization usually leads for reform action, not to revolutionary action. One of the characteristics of mobilization is that it is temporary. Organization is permanent and eternal. Clear differences must be made because the unconscious can usually be captured easily around one-issue items, around mobilization items, but it's hard to catch them around organization. But these unconscious must be brought to organization. We must transform mobilization to organization.
Jalen Walker, shot in America, unarmed, in 2022. Their campaigns, their names should be remembered. Activism towards that, tangible initiatives towards supporting institutions that have been inherently racist, trying to restructure or in some cases destroy that structure and rebuild something new is what is potentially needed. In the UK, we have Chris Cabba. Some people may disagree with me, and I'm going to be quite frank with them on this one. Chris Cabba was shot in the UK by police. People say he was he's a criminal himself, and he was someone who had a gun. So, you know, he wasn't an innocent party. And I'm going to say this quite frank with you. In the UK, we don't have a death penalty. And how would you feel if your son was shot without a fair trial in a country they don't have a death penalty? So you saying that, I don't respect you. I don't respect you one bit.
I'm pissed.
If you say that, and you say, hey, I don't have the capacity to give more, to do more, I just don't have the capacity, I don't know how I would help, that's fine, I understand that. But please recognize that supporting your local black business is supporting that individual, not the black community at large, which symbolically is great, but it doesn't help issues like that, issues in education, issues in lack of appropriate treatment by the NHS. It doesn't.
In America, as soon as they arrive at a position based on this blood of the people, they snatch that position and run away from the people. But you must not think that they represent the people. They only represent their opportunistic self, using the people every step of the way.
I put that Kwame Terrell clip there, just so people to see that the system of systematic racism involves more than just a few more black billionaires. It will take much more than that. To cover the wealth gap is just insurmountable. It will take more than that. It takes true activism. And anyone like Jay-Z said, you know, we're past kneeling. For him to say that, again, there's contempt. There's contempt in this community. There's internalized racism. Call it what it is. It's internalized racism. But in order to really improve this community, I just want to say this, or get this community more forward, it involves true activism, being active, getting involved in campaigns, or even if it's as simple as signing a petition, it involves a lot more than just supporting your local black business. That, I'm not saying that is not important. I'm not saying don't go and start your business. If you start it, put it into the comments, and people like it, go support it. I'll support it, I promise, if you put it into the comments. But it's more than that. It's more complex than that. I think it's so complex. I've struggled with this conclusion. You're gonna notice it's quite choppy because I've written things down. I've changed it several times because to conclude like what the community, what a black community needs, what ethnic minority communities need to get out of the systematic racism is so much bigger than just one video could do. And I employ people to go out there and do their own research, put into the comments what they think can improve it. Because I'm just one guy and I'm actually not that clever. I just have a good way of making myself seem clever. I'm a fraud. But in all honesty, it's so much more complicated than what these celebrities are putting out there. And even if it is exactly what they're saying it is, typically they seem to just be hoarding more money and wealth to themselves, or pairing up with white corporations, which may be kicking down doors, but we're just yet to see how it tangibly helps. We're just yet to see it. I'm going to leave with a Kwame Terrell quote playing in the background. Well, something that put into the comments what you think can help would be steps forward to helping the black community, steps forward helping just communities that are historically been not just deprived but have faced systematic oppression. Put into the comments what you think. We all should have a debate about it. I'm excited to hear what you've got to say. This episode, this clip actually went on so much longer than it should have needed to. But anyway, I'm out.
Changes can come from the top down. We're not stupid. Changes can only come from the bottom up. The masses and the masses alone can make them. If you want to learn something from the 60s, the lesson is simple. Organize the masses of the people. Thank you.